minutes or so. Stafford Murray, English Institute of Sport.
Stafford Murray, English Institute of Sport.
Yeah.
Where's Ian?
Don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, Stafford Murray will be back in 2 minutes. He's just quickly gone to the bathroom for a quick break. No, the speaker's just gone to the bathroom. Just go back in 1 minute. Huh?
I said, what's the number 2 quick?
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Leonardo stage this afternoon. First speaker is Stafford Murray, and he's from the English Institute of Sport, and he's going to be talking about technologies in sport. Thank you, Stafford.
Thanks, Andrew. Is that working all right, boys? Yeah? We're on? Okay. Welcome, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. I've always wanted to play in a rock band, and I do play in a band locally, and I almost promised my mother that I would make it to play in a super-sized arena. So I finally made it. Not quite exactly what I thought it might be, but it's all very exciting. So welcome to the presentation. What I'd like to talk to you today is how we used technology within sports science, particularly during the London Games, but over the last 10 years, of how we've used technology to improve our sports science. So, So my name's Stafford Murray, and I'm head of sports analysis at the English Institute of Sport, which we'll come to later. First of all, talking about technology and innovation, I was in a hotel in Japan about 2 weeks ago, and that's innovation. So I had a shower, and then went and dried myself and come in for a shave, and it was automatically cleaned the mirror. I thought that was amazing. No, just me? Yes, that's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, pretty good. Okay, so what am I going to talk about today? First of all, what the English Institute of Sport is. Secondly, what is sports analysis within the Institute. Thirdly, how we use technology within the Institute of Sport to improve the way that our athletes perform. And then it gets exciting. The first three are a little bit boring, really, to be honest, and then it gets a bit exciting towards the end. We're going to look at 10 case studies from over the last 10 years of how new bits of technology have increased or improved the way that we provide services to our Olympic athletes. Then some conclusions, and then most importantly, hopefully, allow some time for question and answer. So what is the EIS? Has anyone heard of the English Institute of Sport? Yeah? Heard of it? Great. Okay, so what we do is we provide the sports science to all of our athletes within the UK. We're funded by the government through UK Sport, and we've got a batch of institutes around the country. Now, if you take your mind back to Sydney, 2000 was really the catalyst for the start of the Institute of Sport. We came 10th in the Olympic Games, one of our worst positions for years. So we decided we had to change the way that we were doing our sports science within Britain. Now, I managed to find a video of some of the training that took place before we started to use technology in sport. It's not real. Don't panic, it's not real. Oh, boom. So as you can see, we have improved quite a lot since then. That wasn't real, by the way. That isn't us. So, the Institute of Sport started in 2002. There was a slight increase between Athens and Sydney. And then, what happened in 2005 with regards to Olympics? Anyone know? No? There's a clue, okay? We received, the London bid was accepted, and therefore we received increased funding for our coaching, for our athletes, and for our sports science support. So, Beijing came along. You can see a great improvement from 10th to 4th, and then London last year, which I'm sure you're all aware of, we came 3rd in the Olympics and 3rd in the Paralympics. Now what's interesting are these stats here. These are analysts working within the Team GB, and the analysts are the people that mainly use the technology side of sports science. And you can see a massive increase of over 35 analysts working just for the GB team within London last year. So a real big rise in the use of technology within sport. Okay, so the EIS, just to give you a background, we look after 1,500 athletes, 250 members of staff, and we spread all round Britain. What do we do? We're performance focused. Our management is technically led. We look after staff development. We manage knowledge and disseminate that knowledge, and we work in partnership and collaborations with technological companies. To give you an example of some of the companies that we worked with in the build up to London 2012, I'm sure you've seen some of these companies. McLaren, Formula One, we use some of their technology. BAE Systems, Sheffield University do a lot of solutions, and we'll come to some of these examples later on. So we're classed as the team behind the team. We provide the sports science. That doesn't take anything away from the coaching staff and the athletes. They are the most important people. We are the team behind the team. We don't claim the glory. We just help people to the top or to the best of their sporting ability. And the problem we have as sports scientists and looking at technological interventions is obviously Olympic Games are four-year cycles. And you think about the period of time that you should be changing what you do within an elite sporting environment. If we look at the four-year model, really the year post-games, you're looking at what you did, what went well, what didn't go well. And then you start looking at innovation, although the N has fell off. So really, you've only got 1 or 2 years to really look at different ways or different technologies that you can apply within sports. Because the final year before the games, you shouldn't be changing what you do. So it's a real small window to try these new pieces of science. So, within the EIS, we do a multitude of disciplines, from psychology to physiotherapy, 10 to 12 different disciplines. And sports analysis is the one that uses technology the most. So sports analysis is an umbrella term used for performance analysis, biomechanics, and skill acquisition. Like I said before, the 30+ analysts working around the country providing support services to athletes. And let me just show you a quick definition of what performance analysis is. I won't read this for you. I'm sure you can read. I hope you can read. Who's been camping? Good parties? No? Any hangovers? No. So, performance analysis, basically, who knows this guy? Who's this? Who is it? Anyone know his name? Correct. Sun Tzu. He's arguably the greatest military tactician ever. And this quote here, the top one in the black, is really our rationale. It's our pièce de la résistance. Know your enemy as you know yourself, and you need not fear 100 battles. So we analyze ourselves, we analyze our opposition using technology to ensure that we know exactly where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are, and where our opponent's strengths and weaknesses are. So that's what performance analysis is. Biomechanics, again, I'll allow you to read it. Biomechanics basically looks at the mechanical parameters of human motion to do two things. Firstly, to improve technique, and secondly, to reduce injury. And finally, skill acquisition. Do you want to go? No? Finally, skill acquisition is a relatively new subject, and we use three areas. That's feedback science, it's visual behavior, and it's practice structure. So we combine those three disciplines in what we call sports analysis. I told you the first half's boring. It gets exciting in a bit, so stay awake, and there'll be some sexy stuff. So this is the complex model of how the three disciplines work together. It doesn't really matter, to be perfectly honest. What matters is what we're trying to do with the technology that we deploy within these disciplines is to make decision-making more objective within elite sport, to take subjectivity away from the decisions that coaches and scientists are making. Whether that's regards tactical planning, whether that's regards technique, whether that's regards talent ID, selection procedures, etc. We want to make it as objective, as fact-based as possible. And you'll see in a minute some of the ways that we've done that. As you can imagine, within the Institute, working across 25 to 30 sports, the demands of sports are different. From macro analysis, looking at patterns of play, etc., in team sports, all the way through to micro analysis, where we're looking at technique of finite movement of quite technical sports. What we've realized over the years is that one piece of software or one piece of hardware does not answer all those questions. And it's become more and more evident that actually we require bespoke solutions to answer the questions. These are the list of some of the softwares that we use. But as I said before, the key is our partnerships with our technological partners to provide bespoke solutions. Okay. So what do we do? Again, I won't go through this, you can read it yourself. But we're about feedback, we're about helping performance, we're about improving technique, we're about improving tactics using visual data together to enhance the way that our athletes perform. Has anyone seen that before? Now I'm going to put my neck on the line here. Are there any Aussies here? No? That's what the Australians have done, sporting-wise. Their institute system has not changed for 12 years. I'm not going to say that's why they're rubbish at sport. You can guess that yourself. But if you always do what you always did, you'd always get what you always got. You look at Rebecca Adlington, the swimmer. In Beijing, she got 2 golds. In London, she did a better time. She improved the way that she performed and got bronzes. So everything is always moving forward. So we always have to move forward what we do as sports scientists. You can't rest on your laurels. However, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if something's working well, don't try this technology just for the sake of trying technology. The reason that we deploy technology within elite sport is to answer a performance question. Not because the piece of technology looks sexy and because someone else is using it, we feel like we should use it. It's driven by the question. So what's the need? What do we need to measure? What do we need to find out? Let's then find the best technology. Not what's the best technology, how can we crowbar it in somewhere? So there's a real system that has to be managed. So I want to show you a video now from the 1960s. Anyone remember the Jetsons? A cartoon called the Jetsons? Anyone? No? Okay. So this was a cartoon in the 1960s that was way beyond its time.
George Jetson his boy Elroy, daughter Judy, Jane his wife,
Your slip disc jockey.
Come on, boys, we've got cartoons here. It's great.
On 3D TV.
Free cartoons.
At 7:30 hours on this good morning.
Free popcorn.
With your modern mother's muscle tone program of the year. Now chin up, index fingers out. Ready for your push button finger exercises?
Time. I'm sorry, Mom. Hey, maybe I should be punished and kept home from school, huh? Huh?
Oh, no, you don't. What would you like for breakfast?
The usual.
The usual coming up. Milk? Cereal? Crunchy or silent? Better make it silent.
And some bacon.
Bacon.
And one soft-boiled egg.
And one soft-boiled egg.
Thanks, Mom.
Thank goodness that's so... George, breakfast is ready.
Okay. Let me brush my teeth.
Hurry, George, you'll be late.
I'm hurrying. Emphatically beyond the shadow of a doubt, and oh no!
George, are you trying to tell me something?
Forget it.
Why don't you ask your boss, Mr. Spacely, for a raise?
Because the boss is a penny-pinching old crab, that's why. Someday I'm gonna give that door a shot right in its electric eye. Pow!
Oh, Mother. Mother, I was just going to call you.
You were? Well, what did George do now, the big bully?
Oh, nothing really, Mother. It's just that housework gets me down.
Well, it's really none of my business, dear. So I'll give you some advice. Get a maid.
So nobody remembers the Jetsons? Yes. Now you're being honest. Not age-wise. I'm sure you weren't there. So as you can see from the Jetsons, that was 1967. The future is here. We are part of the future. The important thing for us is how do we use this stuff? Is innovation an impact for us as sports scientists? Is it an impact or is it a distraction? Because it can easily become a distraction. So let's have a look what innovation is first of all. I'm sure you've seen the quotes for what innovation is. Now for us, as sports scientists, for it to be successful, it has to be something new. It has to be something we haven't tried before. It has to have an impact, a tangible impact that we can measure or that we can see. It has to be successful. It has to lead to a successful change in performance for it to be good innovation. If not, we shouldn't do it. It has to change the desired future state, and it has to change the way that athletes perform. So that is successful innovation for us as sports scientists. The problem that we've got within sport, really the big technological the technological companies, they're not interested in us. It's a small market. When I first started this 10 years ago, I phoned Sony and said, "We're at the English Institute of Sport. Can we have some free laptops, please?" And they said, "Who? What?" I said, "You know, the Olympic." Hey. So we are a very, very small market that the large firms are not really interested in working with. But it is a good shop window. Come the Olympic Games, come the major events. And that's where we've created partnerships to work alongside the technological companies. If you were at my 18th birthday party, which was only 20 years ago, I've had a hard life, I had a big paper round, that's what you might have seen at my 18th birthday party. So we've got, what's that? Laptop, what's that? Camcorder, what's that? Yeah. No, it's a game. It's a handheld game. What's that? Polaroid camera. What's that? Cassette player, Walkman. Excellent. And what's that? Phone. Right. So that was my 18th birthday, coming up in 2 months' time. So on my 38th birthday, it's true this, what will that be? Have you seen this before? Yeah. So just in 20 years, which is not a long time, believe it or not, all that is now in there, and it's continuing to develop. So what's next? What's in 20 years' time? But again, the key for us as scientists is don't get drawn into what the technology is doing, ensure it's answering the question. Right, the exciting bit. Any questions about the boring bit? No? Okay, excellent. So, I'm going to show 10 case studies now, and it's not exhaustive. It's not everything that we've done within sport, science. To be honest, some of the really sexy stuff we aren't allowed to show, so I do apologise about that. But if I showed it, I'd probably get the sack. So I had two choices, really, didn't I? And these are actual questions, real-life problems that were faced by us or faced by sports coming into either the Beijing or the Olympic or the London Games. Now, the first one is a very, very, very simple one, and this is from 10 years ago. Who's heard of a sport called squash? Yeah? Hands up if you don't know squash. Let's have a quick look. Do we just have a 1 minute look at what squash is, just so you know? Because the question was, the problem we had is how do you replicate performance in training? How do you make the training so hard that it actually replicates what the sport itself does? So let's just have a quick look at what the sport is.
Hi, I'm Nick Matthew, World Squash Champion. Born in Sheffield, live in Sheffield, but play worldwide.
So as you can see, it's a very multi-dimensional sport. You need speed, you need power, you need endurance, you need hand-eye coordination, you need strong mentality, you need technique, you need the whole lot. So how do you replicate that in training? How do you train? Traditionally, they use a thing called ghosting, which I'll show you what ghosting is. Anyone heard of shadow boxing? Shadow boxing in boxing? Similar to that. I'll show you. So this is ghosting, where you're replicating the movements required on the court. So you're almost trying to relive or redo what you would do as a squash player on court. Now, the average squash match lasts between an hour and a half. Would you fancy doing that for an hour and a half? That's boring, isn't it? That's not a stimulating training environment. And also, players tend to ghost, tend to move where they're strong. They tend to avoid where they're weak. So we try to develop a tool that took those problems away. As you can see, and this is the technology, and this is so simple, and this is only 10 years ago. Mini DV tape, remember them? They're now dead, aren't they? A HD projector, cool. And you could actually see on a dark squash court, you could actually see the image of a match. So what we did was get a player to ghost a match. So instead of just random ghosting, they were actually playing a match. So they could play against the world number one. They could play against the person, if I was playing you next week, I'd ghost a match against you. So that when I play you, I know exactly how it's going to feel. So a really powerful tool from a very, very simple piece of technology. What we did to validate it is we took the heart rate of an athlete playing a match. That athlete then ghosted it through that technology, and there was only a 5% drop-off of heart rate. And when we looked at distance covered, again using a nice piece of technology called SAGIT that measures distance covered through pixel recognition, we actually found that the distance covered was the same. Lactate measurements were the same, and heart rate was only down 5%. So as a training tool, using a very simple piece of technology, it enhanced the training environment. That's case study 1. It gets even more fun, honestly. You're on the edge of your seats, aren't you? You just can't wait. It's fantastic. So case study 2. The problem was sport has insufficient funds to send the analyst to the actual event. And this is a real life example, and this was from Beijing Olympics 2008. What we did is we got the coaches to capture the video footage. They then uploaded it through a system then called Planet eStream. They uploaded it onto the cloud, well, what's now known as the cloud. That was then downloaded remotely here in the UK. It was analysed. You can see there using a piece of Dartfish software, analysing the match, sent back up onto the cloud, and then downloaded at the far end by the coaches. Now the strength is that with this piece of software, you can send the analysis as well as the video footage. So when the coach downloads the piece of the piece of video footage, it's automatically linked to the analysis. So he or she doesn't need to watch the whole footage. He can go to the pertinent parts of the video footage. So again, a nice simple intervention. Case study 3, and this is very, very applicable. Due to the environment, unable to capture good quality footage for subsequent analysis. Now, if we look at a piece of footage here, imagine you're trying to do some kind of objective analysis on this piece of footage. What do you think the problem might be with that, trying to do some kind of measurements with that? It's moving, you're panning, yeah. Yeah, you're panning, so it's not a fixed camera, which you need really if you're doing any kind of measurement stuff. So there's a nice piece of software out there called Dartfish, and they have a thing called slow motion. And what this does is it enables you to create an image of the whole action. So it actually produces one image that allows you to look at the key technical aspects during any given technique. So you can imagine as a coach, instead of just that piece of video footage panning, you've got a nice sequential piece of video footage showing you key technical areas as the thing is taking place. And you can also have that in video form as well if you like. You can see it leaves images of key technical points. So again, a nice piece of technology that enables you from what's a crap piece of filming to get some good data. And that's often the problem. The data you get is only as good as the video footage that you capture. Okay. Another piece of technology by Dartfish is called SimulCam. And let's show you. So video clip 1. Whoa. Okay, a man skiing down a hill. Same piece of hill, different man. Sorry. So if you want to analyze man A against man B, what's the problem there? Anyone? Come on, I ain't talking for an hour, it's your go. No? Come on. One clip's longer than the other, yeah? You want them on the same screen, yeah? The problem is, if we watch them again, the zoom is different, isn't it? The zoom is different, so you're actually getting a different picture. So yeah, the same screen would be great. And there's the next bit of technology. Boom. This is called SimulCam, and what it does is it synchronizes the same places from a different piece of footage. So you can see we've synchronized there at the top gate, and you can see the two skiers going around the gate. And what this does is then overlays the two pieces of footage together. So 2 different pieces of footage. Let's watch that again. Two different pieces of footage with different zooms, different pans, etc. Using SimuCam, taken that away and made them look like 2 identical pieces of footage, so you can compare where someone is gaining time, where someone is losing time, where someone is strong, where someone is weak. So this has been really useful, again, for using footage from where it's hard to get a static image. Okay, what do you think of the first 3? Right, case study 4. Unrealistic time turnaround for technical data. Now often, back in the 90s and maybe the noughties as well, it could take weeks to get some kind of biomechanical measurement, some kind of technical measurement back from a lab. The original setup would be a high-speed video footage, maybe capturing 250 frames a second, and then manually digitizing every single movement. So every frame of that video footage, clicking where that joint is. So you can imagine how long that would take to turn around a piece of footage. And now, with a piece of technology called Quintic, you can automatically track any part of the body that you want. Sorry, it's crashed. Technology broken down. What that does do, I promise, is it tracks the joint markers, and you get real-time measurement, acceleration, velocity, etc. Real-time measurements, but the video clip is broken. I do apologize. That's really annoying. Let's give it one more go. Damn. Oh well. So, case study 5. How to capture real-time performance data in the field. Now again, this is from a long jump, a triple jump, sorry. And in the past, to get velocity, to get acceleration, you'd have to get a side-on view and manually digitize every frame to calculate the speed of the athlete approaching takeoff. Now, using a piece of technology from the military called the Laveg laser, we can calculate the velocity, again, real time of an athlete. And then by processing that, we can work out what is the optimal speed before takeoff. What do we think the optimal speed is before takeoff in a jump? Guess. Slowest? Fastest? Fastest? Anyone fastest? You got it, yeah. Excellent. So the presumption would be that I'm not saying you're wrong, but the presumption would be, well, you are wrong, but the presumption would be that the fastest is best. In fact, the optimal is the speed that allows you to then produce your technique, which is quite an interesting paradigm. Okay, case study 6. So the problem was combining tactical and technical data in water sports. As you can imagine, to collect data in a canoe, going down a slalom course is pretty difficult. If we look at the tactical setups, this is by Julia Wells. This is the typical setup during a canoe slalom event. Three cameras set up. What used to happen is they were all hardwired, whereas now they're wirelessly transmitted back to the analysis center so that people can start doing their tactical analysis of the performance. You can see a nice piece of tagging going on here, so you tag key moments within the event for recall. So getting the tactical side is quite easy. What tactical does is tells you what has happened, so the what. What it doesn't often tell you is the how or the why. So it can tell you where and what something has happened, but it doesn't tell you how or why. So working with one of our partners, BAE Systems and McLaren, we've developed a data logging sensor within the paddle so that you can start collecting real-time force, acceleration, power data from the boat during an actual event. So you can start overlaying the tactical profiles with the technical strengths or weaknesses to see how and why these are happening. So you can see the power curve of the left and right oar as the event is taking place, and vice versa. Okay, case study 7. Who remembers the Olympics last year? Who didn't like them? Where are you from? Australia? No, didn't like it. So that's not bad. We got about 95% people liking it. So just in case you missed it, first of all, the problem was getting footage to coaches at home games. The assumption is that at home games you have an advantage. Rubbish. It's almost a disadvantage to be the home games, particularly in Britain because we're so bloody politically correct that we weren't allowed to do anything naughty. We weren't allowed to sneak any cameras through doors. We had to do everything by the book. So in fact, in some ways, being the home games, it became a disadvantage. Just for those that may have been asleep last summer, we'll just have a quick look back at what the Olympic Games was like in London. No, we won't.
And it's Great Britain's first gold medal of these Olympics.
When you miss me, well, I'm unhappy too. Please don't you forget me, I am so in love with you. Yeah, you want me long now, even though I know I seem to leave my heart behind me every time I go.
Dreams do come true. Champion.
Wish I was in London. That's where I want to be.
Olympic gold.
That's where I want to be.
The crowd were absolutely incredible. This is what I've dreamt of my entire life.
You look up to the crowd, every seat's taken and it's filled with Union flags, and I'm just so blown away.
Unbelievable. I've never seen people like it. Unbelievable. Dream come true.
It's been an amazing experience, and listening to a crowd like that makes a difference.
I've jumped about it for ages, and the crowd has just been amazing.
You little beauty.
It feels so tired and lonely, I'm thinking of you, lover. I wish you could console me, but maybe when it's over.
Both Brownlee brothers on the Olympic podium.
I'm gonna call that number. So far across the sea.
Can a new Olympic record.
I'm just shocked. Everyone just supported me so much. I'm just so happy.
That's where I want to be.
It's just been the most unbelievable experience of my life.
Hands up if you're British. Hands up if you had a little lump in your throat and a little tear in your eye. It's bloody great, isn't it? And that's not going to happen again. So be proud of it, because that's what it's all about. Forget all these gizmos, that's what it's all about. Bloody brilliant. So, as I said, in some cases, the home advantage is a home disadvantage. Now, let me just show you one sport that was allowed to collect data and one sport that was allowed to film within their event. So it's the GB cycling team, which did very well. And this is their kind of in-event setup. They've got wireless open channel radio setup, communication. They're logging various data from the bike through sensors. They're filming every event, and they're real-time in-event and analysing those events as well. Now that data is then sent down. It's sent down wirelessly onto some kind of tablet, whatever type it is. It doesn't matter. From the setup, sent down to the coaches, and the coaches are making decisions. Do you remember the very first one of the very, very first slides, and we've done about the main aim of all this is to make coaches, help coaches make more objective decision making. And just to prove I'm not talking rubbish, there's a video of a coach using his handheld device with the data and the video footage sent straight down, real time, and making tactical and technical decisions between rides. I find that exciting, but I'm a little bit sad. So that's a decentralized example from London. Now, a lot of the sports in London were not allowed to take cameras in. Normally they are, but during the games they weren't, for security reasons, for political correctness reasons, whatever. They weren't allowed to take their cameras in. So we had to use technology to provide a solution. So what we did was provided a centralized capturing system. There's a thing called an OBS, which is the Olympic Broadcast Service, which provides 40 channels of footage from every single event around the country. So you can imagine there's a big, big pile of footage there. What we did, which we thought would be easy, but it wasn't, is we captured all of that footage and then made all that footage available to a variety of coaches. Let's quickly show you how we did it. So there's 40 live feeds captured. There's 23 sports using the service. 16 capture stations just over in Stratford, just over there. 17 hard drives for the sports. 8 members of staff. That was the first day. That was the middle of the week. And that was the last day, drunk. That's how the analyst should be. The best analyst is a drunken analyst. Never ever forget that. We had 6 stations where we could disseminate up into the cloud. We used a piece of software, hardware, called Dartfish TV, where the coaches could again, real time, as soon as it's uploaded, they could download it onto their handheld device. Long days, all backed up. 2,500 hours of footage. Now, did it make a difference? It cost around £250,000 to run that project. A lot of technology, a lot of software, a lot of hardware, a lot of time. But we can actually attribute 4 gold medals from this service. So you can imagine how much a gold medal normally costs. It normally costs, they calculate, about £1.2 million to win a gold medal. That's the kind of cost. So really, in real terms, that's reasonably cheap. So that's the Olympic Games project. Last few. One of the most important aspects of sport is decision making, making the right decisions. Now, let me just show you a piece of footage here. So this is a pit stop during a Formula 1 race, obviously. Now, you might think there's not that many decisions to make, take the wheel off and put it back on, but it's obviously a lot more complex than that with the speed, the pressure, the noise, the heat. It really is a highly pressurized scenario, which is when decision making breaks down generally. That's a pit stop. It's crazy, isn't it? Now what we did is we did some initial analyses to find out which corner of the car was good and which corner was bad. So one corner of the car was doing consistently a bad time, another corner was doing consistently a good time. We were trying to work out what's the difference between those 2 corners. What are they doing differently? We looked at the movement, we looked at their technique, etc. We then looked at their visual tracking behavior. So what are they looking at? In order to make a good decision, you have to choose the right cues. You have to have the right visual pattern to get the right stimuli from the environment. So we use a piece of technology here, which actually tracks exactly your visual gaze pattern. We look at this bit of footage here at the bottom. Let's just watch that again. So you can see his gaze, his pattern of behavior. And we found, not surprisingly, that the good people had a more consistent, a more constant visual tracking pattern than the less successful. It's pretty obvious, but having the the technical ability or the technology to actually measure that is really, really important. Okay. All this data, all this technology means nothing unless the coach and the athlete use it. You may as well whittle against the wind if they aren't going to use any of this data. So we need to make it edible for our data. We need to make it attractive to our coaches. So there's nice pieces of software out there that make that possible. This is a nice, simple piece of software, again from Dartfish, that tracks the line of the change. So this is Lizzie Armstrong with a variety of changes, just trying to see the pattern of which one is the most optimal change. A nice piece of software there. This is another piece of software here. This is Sir Bradley Wiggins here a couple of years ago. And this is the data that's coming from him. And we can wirelessly accept that, and we can integrate it real time within the video footage. So you've got various pieces of footage here, heart rate, positional data, speed, etc. So you can see the strength of that kind of piece of footage there. In the future, and what we tried a little bit, is having a heads-up display so the athlete can see that data. So they're almost self-regulating, self-monitoring their performance whilst taking part in the activity. And then one final piece. This again is a wireless data collection tool, collecting various pieces of data from the bike, plotting it nicely against the video footage, and again, a nice visual tool for athletes and coaches to be able to use. 2-3 years ago, this wasn't possible. And maybe in 2-3 years' time, it might be laughed at. Who knows? Ask the Jetsons. They know. Okay, the final case study is 3D motion tracking. In the past, it's been very expensive, and it's taken a long time to get the data. It requires a large setup. It's quite complicated, etc. So we look at the traditional kind of 3D motion tracking setup, 8 or 10 cameras. Obviously, the more cameras, the more accurate the data. This kind of image is then produced. As I said, takes a lot of calibration, often a lot of time to turn the data around, etc., which is not good enough. For us as elite scientists or elite athletes, elite coaches, we need data real time, because we are making decisions that will affect performance immediately. We've recently got a partnership with a company called XNs that provide a 3D motion analysis suit, producing those kind of measurements, any kind of measurements you want. The limit is your imagination. And produces these measurements and visual graphics as well to represent exactly what the athlete is doing. So you can imagine the power of this kind of thing in a gymnast or in any kind of sport that requires real technical prowess to have that real-time data available. That's really going to change the way that we work. You'll be glad to know it's all over. Conclusion. I think it's pretty simple, pretty obvious that innovation requires careful management. For us as scientists, the question has got to drive the innovation and not vice versa. Again, for us, innovation is not just technology, but it's also a thought process. You go back to the very first case study, which was just a projector against the front wall of a squash court. For me, I think that's probably the best bit of kit that we've seen up here. And it's very, very simple use of technology, but thinking differently. In most cases, not one off-the-shelf solution will answer our questions. So we're increasingly finding a combination of hardware and software and bespoke solutions are the way forward for us as sports scientists. If you've got the correct process, the required resource, and it's managed properly, then there's a performance impact. If there's not a performance impact, we as scientists don't bother touching it. Now, I believe last night there was some problem up in the camping area, and there was people staying up too late and drinking beer, etc. So, talking of innovation for next year, Campus Party have decided to maybe think about the type of security guards that they're going to use, and this is the idea that they've come up with.
When we asked Reebok to send us Terry Tate, some people thought we were crazy.
So make sure there's no problem in the camping area next year.
Outside the box thinking.
Hey, buddy.
Break was over 15 minutes ago, Mesh!
And since Terry's been with us, Our productivity has gone up 46%. We're getting more from our employees than ever before.
You know you need a cover sheet on your TPS reports, Richard. That ain't new, baby.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, Janice.
But what's really impressed me is how Terry's become part of the Felcher family. He fits right in here.
That's a long distance call, Doug.
To be honest, I wish Reebok sent us 10 Terry Tates.
You want to play games, Gene? Well, when it's game time, it's pain time, baby. Woo!
So look out, campers. Terry Tate is coming next year, apparently. Thank you, everyone. Questions, please, but not too many, because I'm not allowed to say a lot of things, and the things I'm not allowed to say, I don't know the answer, so this could be quick.
Hi, just a quick one. Can you tell us which 4 Olympic gold medals were won through technology?
I can tell you the sports.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll tell you the sports. Boxing, sailing, and taekwondo. I can't tell you how, but those sports definitely. Yeah. It was to do with decisions that were wrong, and then use that to look back at the decision, but I didn't tell you that. Stop the streaming.
Hi. Can I ask, are you considering some new technologies like non-invasive real-time lactate measurement?
Sorry, say it again, sorry.
If you are considering some new techniques like non-invasive lactate measurement in the blood in real time,
yeah,
there are some sensors.
Yeah, absolutely. That's outside our discipline of sports analysis. Physiologists and the medical team, absolutely, yeah. They are looking into that, yeah. But that's outside my.
Hello, thanks
Hello.
for the talk. I'm from Germany and I'm studying sports and computer science.
Perfect.
In Darmstadt. Well, it's one of the only places where you can study this combination. I just want to know if you're using sonification from time to time. Do you know sonification?
No.
It's
No.
like sonificate the movement
Right.
to get them move like you want them to move, like
Right.
a runner to get his perfect beat.
No, but I'd like to talk afterwards.
Excuse me?
I'd like to talk afterwards.
Yeah.
If you come out, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please, yeah. Great.
You can
share
learn from
and
me.
Share
Okay.
alike. Way too many questions.
I'm from a housing association, so totally not related to sport at all. But your thing about the question driving innovation, I have a problem in my business in terms of people looking at innovation driving the question. Have you had that issue, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very valid point. And to be honest, when it first started, we almost had to let it run its course. When we first started, you know, let's try that technology. It doesn't work. So we almost learned by kind of trying and retrial. Whereas now it's part of the culture, because we've made those mistakes. We can actually look back on those mistakes and not do it again. But yeah, I'm guessing it's a live issue in every walk of life, really. So we just kind of learn by errors, really. Doesn't help, does it? Sorry, mate. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I've got a little son, and he keeps falling off the step, and I could tell him to stop doing it, but if he falls off it enough times, he ain't going to do it, is he? You know. So, if that helps.
And that's it. Yeah, that's it. Oh.
Hi, this may be a question some kind of out of the box, but being in the field of using technology and new developments in technology to improve sports, I wonder what's your view in technologies such as biomedicine and genetics applied to sports, and what do you think the future will look like in those terms? Thank you.
Again, outside my remit. We have people that work in that area, work in that field, but I really wouldn't want to pass judgment. Good question. Ask them.
Okay, I think that's it.
Thanks, everyone. Hope it wasn't too boring. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stafford. That was great. Thank you very much. Next on Leonardo's stage, we have Laura Bridgman. She worked with the social media team on the famous dolphin documentary, The Cove. Thank you.